Welcome to the Mukilteo Football Show. My name is Miles. The Falcons defeat the Raiders 15-9. The Vikings beat the Bears as well. We'll talk about that. But doubleheader. Week 15 NFL doubleheader on Monday night. I think they do this for the fantasy purposes. I don't know. They didn't start them at the same time. Last year, they had like two games going simultaneously. I think just to amp up what I assumed was for fantasy football. We had Titans, Dolphins, and Packers, Giants, and both of them were super exciting. Remember, the Giants were leading this crazy comeback. They had a chance to really end the Packers' push for the playoffs when it was Tommy Meatballs, man. Back when DeVito was a story rather than a backup quarterback who makes you turn off your TV. And then the Dolphins had a game all wrapped up. I mean, mathematically wrapped up, and they choked it away to the Titans in legendary fashion. That was the Will Levis breakout game when Kirk and I were saying he just had the reactions and the facial expressions of a man who would chainsaw his own mother for a first down or put mayonnaise in his coffee. Tonight was not that, though. Kind of boring games. Falcons, they won. They beat the Raiders, like I said, 15-9, but it felt like they didn't want to win. They were relying on special teams, block punts, block kicks, a safety. One of the weirdest safeties I've ever seen. The Raiders got the ball on the 3-yard line. You run the ball because you always got to run the ball. You're safe if you run the ball. Antonio Pierce is a safe guy. He just thinks you got to be the heart of a team is running the ball in defense. You don't need quarterbacks. You don't need these fancy schemes or anything like that. Well, yeah, you do, Antonio, because you're 2-12. But anyway, I've never seen 2 run plays into a safety before, especially against one of the weakest defensive lines, which the Falcons, though I guess, to be fair, they're weak pass rushers. They're not necessarily a bad defensive line, but that was funny. And the Falcons just could not close this game. They gave up a touchdown late with about 3.5 minutes left. They went 3 and out like 3 times. They just kept getting penalties to extend the drive. One of them a horrible roughing the passer call, like just vintage screw the Raiders. Pete Rozelle called it in, to the ref to just spite Al Davis type of call. Just this really bad one on Kirk Cousins. The linebacker, hit him perfect and even dialed it back. That was probably 40% of as hard as Spillane could have hit Kirk Cousins. It was a really bad call. Didn't matter, right? Because the Falcons got that first down, and then I think the Raiders just had 40 seconds they lost because of that. So they still got a chance to win the game, though, someone could say those 40 seconds were very important. Still got a chance to win the game. Raiders were stumbling down the field. Desmond Ridder, maybe a chance for the ultimate revenge. Remember, he was the Falcons quarterback. Deemed a bust. Now here he is, the 5th quarterback for the Raiders. Showed you, Atlanta. Ultimately couldn't get it done. There was one nice throw to Jacoby Myers. I think that's the first pass a receiver caught all game for the Raiders. And then a couple Hail Marys, incomplete. Falcons win. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like the Falcons got back on track. It just feels like they met the worst team in the league. And, they're still in it. They go to 7-7. They were on a 4-game losing streak, so it was good to snap that losing streak. They're now 1 game behind the Buccaneers at 8-6 for the NFC South. They beat the Bucs twice, so they have the tiebreaker. So this could be interesting coming up, though. To what aim? To lose a wild card game? What are we fighting for here? The other game, Also boring, but at least we got to see some fun stuff from the Vikings and pleasing the home crowd there. They blew out the Bears 30-12. It was nice for them, certainly, because they were the ones with the sour taste after, what was that, week 12, their previous matchup when the Vikings won, but they gave up an 11-point lead inside of the 2-minute warning, which I think was like the first time that had ever happened. A team had forced overtime in that scenario. Then, of course, for the Bears' horrific season, they ended up losing that game after that historic overtime force. But this was like a statement. That's not happening again. Get out of the way, crumbs. And this Vikings stomped the Bears. Caleb Williams looked horrible. He looked scared. He's playing scared. He's playing like a college player who did not know that the NFL was this hard. And I do think that's the simplest answer. He said a lot of things that made people think he may be underestimating the NFL. He talked about it like it was a piece of cake. He said the fans shouldn't even worry. They don't need to worry. He is absolutely over his head, and he didn't have a coach who could help shape that reality. Like, dude, you do not understand how much work you're going to need to do, man. But he's hesitant. Caleb Williams sacked the 57th time. They put up the stat. That's more than the Tim Couch Browns season, which was that 99 Browns year, which is one of the just seasons you think of with a rookie quarterback just getting beat to hell. Can't believe he's already at that. But he takes sacks too. So, but hey, Bears fans, he also threw his 17th touchdown, extending that rookie Bears quarterback record. And no, the record wasn't 16. Everyone else, the record was 11. 11 touchdowns in a season was the Bears rookie touchdown record. Every time they tell you Caleb Williams broke this record, ask how many it was he needed to break it. It was 11 in a season. Oh, man. The Vikings, 12-2. Tied with the Lions now because the Lions lost to the Bills. There is this Week 18 matchup on the horizon that maybe, I know advertisers are certainly salivating. Can we make that thing relevant? That'd be interesting. I don't think anyone's genuinely believed that was possible, but now that the Lions lost to Buffalo, it's the kind of the door is open. It's still a little bit of an uphill battle to make that Vikings-Lions game this dream battle for the division and maybe the 1 seed. Because the Vikings have Seattle and Green Bay next. Detroit has Chicago and San Francisco. So, that's not even at all. But could be fun. The Vikings, good vibes. And Justin Jefferson scored his 39th career touchdown. Gave a shout out to Randy Moss. Justin, man, you got to get more touchdowns. I was just looking that up to try and see how many he was, how close he was to Randy Moss. He's 115 behind Randy Moss. I mean, yeah, you're already 5 years in, my man. You got to get touchdowns to be remembered as one of the greats. You don't want to be doomed like Julio Jones, who, by the way, did this exact thing that Justin Jefferson is doing twice as long, and no one cares because he didn't score touchdowns. It just is fading away. Justin, my man, you got to get in that end zone, okay? Keep focusing on that. And I know that he's a big Mukilteo Football Show listener, I kid. All right, let's talk a little bit about Week 15. Mukilteo Football Show. This show is football everything, NFL history, legacy, ups and downs of a season. We got shows Sunday, Monday, and Thursday after the primetime games. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. I believe this is my 250th show. And I'm just double checking that. And this is the kind of professionalism that you've come to know and love. It is 250 episodes of the Mukilteo Football Show. Pretty cool. I started it just thinking of a way to express how much I love football and think about football, how important it is to me to fill the record books as tied to my childhood. my childhood, of course, on my mind a lot as I get older, and, a lot of loss in my family lately, and just, having my brother here doing the show as well. So it's been fun, and hoping to keep it up. Definitely looking for some changes next year. And, this format isn't working, but definitely looking forward to it. But 250 shows is pretty cool. I've said a lot of really smart things. Did not do a show last night because I was at that Sunday Night Football Seahawks game. Packers, Seahawks, two of the NFC contenders on NBC. Yeah, the game sucked. Oh, it sucked. It was not only did we get handled, which, I mean, for all we joke about, the Pete Carroll Seahawks, one of the jokes was, it's always interesting. This game wasn't interesting. This game we felt overmatched. We were completely handled. We could not get it going. It was disorienting for the Seahawks fans because we had such a long stretch of that not happening to us. And it was happening before Geno Smith got hurt. So, there's a lot of Seahawks fans who say, see, this is what happens without Geno. Like, dude, it happened with Geno. It happened with him. Just so you know. But, yeah, the crowd just... I mean, we tried. It is so quiet in there compared to, what it used to be. But they did a whole big tribute to the retiring of the 12th man, of the number 12. My mom, my grandma, my grandpa Butch, they were at the Kingdome in that 84 game where they retired that number. They had season tickets from early 80s to early 2000s. And, so I was thinking, that would be pretty cool to see, but the game was so dull. There was a drone show, and the fact that the crowd was so quiet, just the Packers were huddling up, I mean, we're still loud. I mean, it wasn't as dramatic as people, want to, to get clicks and stuff want to say, but it wasn't what it was, Beer Barrel Ed and the big bearded guy in overalls with his voice barely hanging on, Kingdome screamers. They'd be disappointed in us. They would. Seahawks football used to be so loud. The point is to be loud. Now there's just so many people who come to witness the environment. Dude, you gotta be part of it. You come to take part in this. I don't know. We've fallen off. Us and Kansas City have both fallen off. We were the two, Seahawks and Chiefs fans were the loudest fans for 4 decades, and Pittsburgh and Green Bay and Buffalo, they would always say they are, but us and Chiefs fans knew they weren't, and the Colts fans and Broncos fans and stuff. But now, I think probably the Pittsburgh Stadium gets louder. Buffalo Stadium definitely gets louder. Green Bay probably gets louder. New Orleans, Indianapolis, those domes. At least we're not the 49ers, the quietest fans, and, probably Miami, Chargers. But, yeah, that was on my mind. The game was bad, and I've been pessimistic about the Seahawks anyway. I've been saying on the podcast and our Thursday previews that we're pessimistic, but I feel most bad for the DJs and the stadium announcers who have to continue to be enthusiastic. Sam Howell threw a pick to seal the game. We're down 18 points. And the announcer's still third down. And then it's come on, left, Seahawks fans, get loud. Get loud. It's dude, we're leaving. We're leaving. We just lost the game. There's always that guy down on the mic on the stadium. He's talking to military families and stuff like that. And he's, let's get the Seahawks chant going. Seahawks, say. It's dude, we're losing by 18 with 4 minutes to go. Read the room. Read the room. And that's kind of how I feel about the whole NFL right now. They're going to be pumping up this next 3 weeks of football because there's a lot of advertising. There's corporate money in stuff, and you can't just come out and say, yeah, this sucks. Not a lot of drama, right? You can't do that because there's money involved. But this sucks, and there's not a lot of drama. We do have a big Ravens-Steelers game on Saturday, but the other 3 AFC divisions are clinched, and both the Ravens and Steelers are in the playoffs already. So they're playing a big game to host a playoff game, they're not going to kick each other out of the playoffs here. And the wild cards are just so locked up. Week 15 didn't really help with that. It's like the Chargers lost. So you're thinking, oh, okay, the door is open. Wow. The Chargers lost. One of these wild card teams, Bengals or Dolphins or Colts, could get going. Well, the Dolphins and Colts both lost. So they're still 2 games behind with 3 weeks to go. And the Bengals, of course, won, but they are also 2 games behind. So despite the Chargers losing, it's really the only spot of the AFC playoffs that's up for grabs. They have an 83% chance at it. So we'll see if either Colts, Dolphins, or Bengals can turn it around and the Chargers collapse completely. The Colts were the most disappointing of the week because they were playing the Broncos. They had a chance to both bring the Broncos down a peg, so they would have been 8-6, just like the Chargers, and they would have then joined, a very realistic playoff picture. We would have had Colts, Broncos, Chargers right in a mess, fighting for 2 spots with Bengals and Dolphins on the outside. But now we don't even have that. The Colts dropped the ball, literally, as Jonathan Taylor was about to run a touchdown at the beginning of the third quarter, put the Colts up 13 points. They dominated the first half. Instead, he drops the ball right before the goal line, fumbles it through the end zone. And that's being captured as the reason they lost. They didn't have to give up 24 unanswered points after that. They didn't have to score 0 points in the second half. That was not part of it. So let's look at that too. I don't know. Broncos deserve it, man. And the Dolphins, they also, they did what they always do when they meet a playoff team. Tua is irrelevant. And Derek Stingley, big night for the Texans. 4th overall pick in 2021. He got his moment. And I'm hoping we can kind of get calling him Sting and start using police songs like Don't Stand so close to me. We could get sort of that stuff because there's a lockdown corner. If he really gets going, we every breath you take. There's some good ones, really good ones. Roxanne. I don't know how that one applies, but that's a good song. So, yeah, not much drama in the AFC or the NFC. We got the NFC South, like we talked about, Falcons, Bucks. Will be interesting going down the stretch here. Those games will be important. We got the NFC West, so Seahawks, Rams, Cardinals, the game behind. That's good right there. And then we have the NFC race for the 1 seed with Eagles, the real banged up Lions, and the Vikings all in there. So, there's at least a little something. MVP kind of wrapped up. Josh Allen, I think you can call it that. He's got his last 2 weeks have kind of solidified it because he added those stats that he needed. 704 passing yards, 150 rushing yards, 5 passing touchdowns, 5 rushing touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. Because he had been kind of low on the statistical, threshold. So now he's up to 25 passing touchdowns, 11 rushing touchdowns with probably 2 games to go. I think he's got MVP because the Bills are doing so good because they're so balanced all of a sudden, which is ironic. That balance would make somebody become the MVP. You could argue the opposite if you were going by, literally scales of value. But the award just isn't that. It's the quarterback getting credit for the team, kind of. And that sucks, but it is what it is. So, everyone's saying this is the Bills' year. Josh Allen's year, Bills' year. I'll tell you this. Bills fans are not saying that. Real Bills fans are not saying that. This is fueling up the tragedy tank. Wide right doesn't mean anything if you had no chance. Nobody saw wide right coming. So just think about that when you're saying the Bills got it this year. Football is not like that. And they beat the Lions. They just thumped them. It was not as close as the very high score had it believe. Actually, both the games, the Rams beating the Bills last week, and the Bills beating the Lions this week, the two highest scoring games of the year, neither one of them were as close as the score made it out to be. There's some garbage time touchdowns by the losing team. It wasn't like a shootout, like back and forth. It was more like an attempted comeback, a high wire attempted comeback. So Lions, are the other big story of that game, and I'll just kind of close and just cover just this game today since we're already out of time. But Dan Campbell onside kick. Ugh. This is the first real media turn I've seen against Dan Campbell, and obviously that was a decision. So let's see, they scored, they brought it within a possession. They'd been on a good comeback. They scored a touchdown. Bills got a field goal. Lions got another touchdown. So they gained 11 points in this shootout, which was hard to come by since both teams scored almost 50 points. But he onside kicks with 12 minutes in the game. And, I mean, if you're going to do it anywhere, it's an admission that your defense cannot stop Josh Allen. And if you're going to do it anywhere, it should be against Josh Allen in the middle of a 10-touchdown in 2-game run, by the way. But, I don't know, Dan. I just let it play out the way it's going to play out, Do what the old school coaches and the media heads want you to do, because it's what they did, which is kick it and show the world that your defense couldn't have stopped them, so you don't get so much of the blame. That's why those old school coaches, that's why Bill Cowher and Rex Ryan get so mad at all the fourth down stuff, because it's taking accountability onto the coaches, and they're succeeding, in a lot of cases. The routine is put them out there, beat them man to man. Oh, you didn't beat them? Well, that's on the players, isn't it? Of course, you're going to go up there and you're going to take, well, I don't know. That's a whole nother rant. But the Lions are not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. The injuries are too much. I saw somebody online post well, they still have Dan Campbell. Well, Dan Campbell doesn't mean you win the Super Bowl. I'll point you to all the other years where he didn't win the Super Bowl. What are you talking about? And of course, the big news, we're waiting on the Pat Mahomes, see how his ankle sprain is. But we'll be back on Thursday to talk about all of that. And if the Lions do win the Super Bowl, please be noted that this is where I jumped off the bandwagon. I cringe at this buildup of injuries. It's like everyone will gloss over it in going towards the games, and then the game will surprise them. I'm sorry. It is now too much. It's too much. The Lions are toast. And so are the Seahawks. Positive end. All right, good night.